Hi, I'm Pat Mangan, Director of Governance Education at NRECA. Welcome to Governance Talk. My guest today is Susan Olander. Susan, you are the Vice President and General Counsel at Federated Rural Electric Insurance Exchange. Delighted to have you here.
I'm happy to be here, Pat.
Well, thank you. I want to talk to you today about board minutes.
Okay.
Keeping of the minutes, the level of detail, access, things like that.
Sure.
So let's start out with just what's the purpose of the board minutes? Why do they exist?
Board minutes exist as a record of what you as a board have done. Okay. They are a legal record of the actions taken, the directions given to management, the strategic course of the organization, the legal course, the financial course. That's just evidence. And having good minutes gives you good evidence, gives you a good history, gives you an idea of where you've been, where you're going, serves as a checkpoint for, okay, we approved this resolution, we told management to do this. Did they follow up? When were we supposed to follow up? Gives you that great evidentiary record. The other purpose of minutes, which a lot of people don't think about, is if you're a new director on a board, they are the absolute best historical record you can look at. Going back 5 years, 6 years, whatever's appropriate. But reading those minutes, and then you as the new director have that history, you know where the co-op's been, and you know where the co-op's going from a board perspective.
Sure.
And it really gives you valuable information and a running head start on being a director.
Great. You know why decisions are made. You know how we got here. It is a great history, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a perfect track record.
So let's talk about the level of detail that ought to be in the minutes.
You don't want too much detail in the minutes, and you don't want too little detail in the minutes. Now, I realize that's a non-answer answer. So let's talk about too little first. We've talked about your minutes are an evidentiary record. So if you have too little, they're not going to really do much good for you, are they?
They don't provide enough evidence.
They don't give you that historical perspective. They don't show the resolutions that were passed, the follow-up instructions given to management, the discussion with outside people.
Okay, outside advisors or consultants.
Correct.
Okay.
Which you're entitled to rely on,
Certainly,
as we all know.
certainly.
So you want enough information in there that it's clear you have met the informed decision-making standard that's going to help you be protected as a director from liability. So I don't want too much detail, but I want enough in your minutes that when you combine those minutes with the board book and the information you were provided at the board meeting, I can infer that, wow, you did make an informed decision because you had the information you needed. If there's too little information in those board minutes, then I can't really use it to say this is great evidence that you made an informed decision and that you had enough information.
All right.
Conversely, too much information.
Yeah.
I don't need everybody's name on every vote recorded. I don't need individual attribution as to what each person said.
Okay.
Too much information can be equally damaging as too little information. And if I know that I am sitting in a board meeting with Pat Mangan, and in the board meeting it's going to say Pat Mangan said that Susan Olander was wrong, do you think I'm going to express my opinion?
Right. You're going to hold back.
I'm going to hold back. So that's why I like to see in the minutes significant discussion ensued where the topics of X, Y, and Z were discussed. The topics, not individual attribution.
Not who said what.
No. I get asked the question, should we record board minutes? If that is helpful to you in creating the board minutes, yes. I do not want a transcript.
Very good. Do you recommend that perhaps a board have a conversation with the attorney and CEO present to discuss what level of detail do we want? Is that something that they ought to come to together? What do you think?
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Okay.
I think what you have to do is look at, what do our minutes look like now?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has a different style of writing minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I've been writing minutes for over 40 years. You could pick up, I don't care which corporation I was at, you could pick them up and go, oh, Susan wrote these minutes. And at Federated now for 35 years, I've been writing the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a style and my board is comfortable with that style.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
A new person coming in, writing the minutes might have a different style. So having that conversation with the board, with the attorney, with the CEO saying, more information should be in here, less information should be in here.
Mm-hmm.
We're making a conscious decision to change
Mm-hmm.
what our
Mm-hmm.
minutes look like.
Yeah.
Because something I like to see in minutes is consistency.
Okay.
You know,
A consistent writing pattern, a style,
Yes.
consistent over time.
meeting over meeting, year over year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're changing it, just put a note in the minutes why you're changing the style.
Okay. Very good. I want to ask you another question that comes up. Directors will say, when a vote is taken and they're opposed to something, should I record my no vote? Thinking that, and my understanding when they ask that is they're looking to protect themselves from any sort of liability. Discuss that a little bit.
There's two issues here.
Yeah.
One is recording a no vote. The
Mhm.
other is, does that help me from a liability standpoint?
Mm-hmm.
Recording a no vote, if you truly are opposed to the action being taken,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you should vote your conscience.
Okay.
Now, whether you want yourself named or not is entirely up to you. It could read in the minutes, resolution passed with 8 voting in favor and 1 voting against.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could read, resolution passed, 8 voting in favor, and Mr. Johnson voted against.
Mm-hmm.
That's individual preference with the director. But I
Okay.
do think if you want to vote no, you should have it recorded, because otherwise you are presumed to have assented
I see.
to the action.
Without that notation, you
Yes.
are presumed to have consented.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the separate question is, does it give you any extra protection from liability?
Right.
From a realistic standpoint, personal liability doesn't exist. I mean, it can, but it is so infinitesimally small,
Okay.
I don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
From a corporate liability standpoint, I'm not sure it makes any difference either. So it's really, you're saying, I am opposed to this action.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel strongly enough with my convictions that I'm going to have my vote recorded. And maybe it'll make the rest of the board think about it and hear your arguments a little bit better. But I don't think you can tie it to whether I have any protection on liability.
Let's talk a little bit about the attorney's role in the minutes. The attorney can do so many things, write, review, however. How do you see it?
I would suggest, I don't think you have to have your attorney write your minutes.
Okay.
If that's your practice, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
If it's not your practice and you have someone else writing the minutes, someone on the board, someone in management, whomever,
Mhm.
that's fine too. I would suggest that the attorney review the minutes before they're approved by the board.
Okay.
It's just out of an abundance of caution, just to make sure there's nothing in there
Mm-hmm.
that could create legal liability down the road.
Okay. So a review.
Quick review.
Part of the process of
Part
what
of
we ask our attorney to do.
Sure.
Very good. All right, let's jump to another area, and that's access to the minutes. Who has access? Who should have access? In light of transparency and so forth, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, clearly board members have access.
Okay.
Senior management has access.
Mhm.
Your attorney's going to have access. Your outside auditors have access. In
Right.
fact, they will ask for your minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big elephant in the room is, do your members have access? That's a matter of state law usually,
Mm-hmm.
as to whether someone has a right to the minutes. A lot of times in state law, what you see is a member has access to minutes if they request access during business hours with a reasonable time before they're going to review those minutes. They can review those minutes at the offices of the corporation, but they cannot make a copy.
Okay.
Now, Nobody should have access to those minutes outside the board and management and auditors and attorneys prior to them being approved. But a lot of cooperatives have started posting approved minutes on their websites, their members-only website, because the theory is we just want to be transparent to our members. We want them to know what we're doing as their board and what actions we're taking. And there's nothing to hide here. Whether you have an obligation to do that depends on state law, but if you're looking at a leading practice, you might look at posting approved minutes on your members-only website.
Very good. Susan Olander, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Pat.